Hello guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new, it's Christian from Emotions in Wine. So today we talk again about Sicily after a while. After 4 chapters of Etna, which is the hottest wine region in Italy, well detailed with different levels, whites and reds. Now we start to talk about the rest of Sicily, which is also important, and you have even much more everyday wines. While Etna is more niche, more boutique, smaller wineries, rest of Sicily is mostly bigger sized, like those that we have today, or at least medium, very few small, making boutique concept, even some macerated nowadays and things like that. But majority are still these. Quite historical, with because this is important. You have several local varieties besides those from Etna, but also a lot of international Chardonnay, Sauvignon, Syrah, Cabernet Merlot, and they make a lot of blends. But in the last 2 decades in particular, there is more discovery of the local varieties. So Nero d'Avola, the key red grape, present in more areas, but majority of the grapes are very specific to a certain area, because Sicily is strange. It's a huge island, which is really like a country. You have a lot of diversity, altitudes, microclimates, soils. So besides Catania, so the northeastern area where is Etna, there is a lot of volcanic ashes, at least even surrounding. Then you have other mountainous areas, other low, more calcareous, more sandy. So a lot of different places, different terroirs. So different grapes shooting better here or there. So these wineries have different estates nowadays where they have the best locations for each grape. This is interesting. How they handle is a bit difficult. They need to be well structured because you need to have the cellar in the estate. So centralized, let's say, office, but each one needs to be independent. Otherwise you cannot, because it's huge, so you cannot move from one part to the other. But they are able to deliver good quality for great prices. So today we talk about everyday reds. Planeta, Nocera 2023, Sicilia DOC is the appellation, 13 alcohol, and Cusumano, Nero d'Avola Disueri is the name, 22, 13.5 alcohol. This has also the name of the estate, Tenuta, San Giacomo, so the place where they have the vineyards. Both unoaked, so really everyday wines. So we have Nero d'Avola, which as hinted is the most famous grape overall, and planted in more areas, even if mostly is in the southeast. And Nocera is a real rarity. I never tried it myself 100%, only blended, because north of Etna in Messina province, so the real tip northeast, they make also Faro DOC, Faro DOC, which is very tiny, the smallest in Italy, 15 hectares, something like that. They have still Nerello Mascalese, Nerello Cappuccio, so the grapes from Etna is quite similar, also the terroir, but not really, because it's volcanic but mixed with others, and then is much lower altitude than Etna. But in this appellation, usually Nocera is a tiny percentage. Nowadays, around there, they are making some 100%, but maybe a bunch of wineries. So it's really a rarity. Maybe you cannot find. But Planeta is a big winery, one of the biggest. So it's available everywhere on planet. So you should be able to find a bit of this wine. I found it out of Italy, in Europe, but out of Italy. I start to pour. They open a while, but better to let them breathe, even if it's relatively young and easy wines, but still. So Nocera, I said, is a rarity. There are other. Frappato is more relevant, also in the southeast. So the area of Nero d'Avola is quite relevant in some wines there, but I couldn't find it. And then I was very curious about this Nocera, which is described as interesting, even if usually it's blended in that appellation. And Then the rest is mostly the international grapes. Some other small quantities of local varieties. Same is true for whites, but there are more options quite present. So maybe another chapter will be about that, we will see. So as said, easy wines every day. Here we are talking about cheap. It's a classic in Sicily overall, especially on this kind of wines and oaks. They are, even if this is a rarity, is still 12, 13 euros in Italy, while Nero d'Avola less, 11, even 10, depending where you find it. So very affordable. I wanted to give something easier, even for simple enjoyment. Planeta, as hinted, is one of the biggest and historical. Nowadays they make also Etna, I guess even Cusumano. So they have many estates spread it around. And this is something special. As said, there's only a few wineries making 100%. This is not in the far appellation, it's really close to the sea, near Messina. Low altitude also, so that you also think is warm because it's North Sicily, but of course the breezes in the nighttime help to chill a bit, but it's still warm. Usually they need higher altitudes in Sicily to have, unless they are really in on the Etna or in inner areas where cool nights are happening anyway. So the grape is particular, dark color, fruity, good acidity, so that maybe helps. Even if it's warmer, it's still having a natural good acidity helps to keep it still lively. Very fruity immediately, dark berries, touch of floral. Of course, here we have the purity of the fruit. There is no oak, so no any external influence except the winemaking. So we will appreciate as they are. Of course, we will not have huge complexity that is inevitable for this kind of wines. So this is near the coast. La Baronia is the place, the locality. Brown soil with granite, silt and ashes from the Etna volcano. I said it's not too far. So it's an interesting soil. This has 10 days of maceration and still aging. So quite standard. Yeah, not much more. Very pleasant. We can say elegant, but mostly fruit, a bit of floral. They say that could have some Mediterranean herbs, things like that. Mineral, yes, that also had by granite both and the volcanic soil for sure. Something different, yeah, coming out. I forgot the color. Ruby, classic, quite dark. It's very fresh. It's drying up a lot the palate, not because of the tannin. Tannin is gentle, but it's very fresh. So the acidity is really high. So it's perfect to clean the food. Not big structure, medium body, but pleasant, good length. So very nice expression. It's not too simple, obviously. Also, I would say, being no oak. Yeah, it's coming out something else. Not Mediterranean herbs so far. More some different kind of fruit, like figs maybe. Let's see, I will do a final round in the end anyway, even if they are easy wines. Yeah, it's better with the food. With this acidity, it's still relatively young, 23. It's quite drying, the palate. So you can sip it, but of course it's better with some food. Anyway, a nice job also considering the palate without any tannin from the oak or spiciness. So nice wine, nice wine. Here is something more because it's 22 vintage, and Nero d'Avola has usually more structure and more to offer, even if it's an oak. Quite different. Ruby, pretty much the same, I would say. Here you have some more ripe fruits, plum. So Cusumano was considered the best value for money, QPR, between the big names, and was relatively smaller, but this we talked about 15, 20 years ago. Nowadays, I'm not up to date exactly. They are more based in Palermo area, so northwest of the region, but they also have some estates because they have different grapes and different wines. And this one, I said, is the estate San Giacomo in the south, almost central south, about 10 kilometers from the sea at 400 meters. So this is interesting to retain a bit more freshness and aromas. Is the place where they make 2-3 different Nero d'Avola. So that is the locality chosen. Interesting soil also, because it's white but very friable, calcareous. It's not limestone rock, so it's strange if you see it's almost sandy. So it's very interesting also for the elegance of the wine and structure. Also, this one's short maceration, one day cold and then normal, and then longer still aging and bottle refinement. So 22 is the current vintage. Yeah, elegant, a bit more complex than the other. Of course, when it's oaked, it's marking much more things, Nero d'Avola, but even naturally it can have some also here Mediterranean notes and things like that. Some things coming out. Here there is a bit less acidity naturally, even if that higher altitude had, so it's still quite fresh. Gentle tannin also here. Of course, they do winemaking style to extract less, so the wines are quite refined and approachable. Very pleasant, leaving you good depth on the palate, a nice sweet fruit, something else. This can sip easily itself, but of course it's nice with some meat, pasta, even cold cuts. Both of them can go well. And it's quite pleasant, both nose and palate. Has a bit more. It's also aged a bit. First of all, Nero d'Avola is a relevant grape. Second, is aged 1 year more. I guess even the Nocera 1 year later could be more interesting. Other ripe fruit, touch of herbal, also a touch of ethereal. Yes, something reminding of Mediterranean, yes. Yeah, it's very pleasant. For no oak, it's giving quite a lot. The fresh mineral also on the palate you feel it, and this fruit, very pleasant, very pleasant. Final round. Yeah, they are really different. This is the nice aspect. First time, as I said, that I tried this one, so it's really quite intense. These dark berries. I think it's still young to show a bit more character and more notes. There is just a hint of those other things I mentioned, and not really Mediterranean scrub or things like that. We can say it's remarking the minerality also on the nose quite well. So it's refined, delicate, but not that complex. Yeah, this needs food. It's drying up a lot. Now even the tannin a bit more sensible. So nice wine, I think needs at least 1 year more if they don't do oak. Need a bit of aging anyway. This can age for an unoaked red, can age well because with this freshness is well sustained, and it's better to drink it at least 1 year later. It's a bit too young, so just start in drinking window. But very pleasant, refined, and an easy wine. So back to the Nero d'Avola. Yeah, this is nice complexity, changing a bit more this different dry fruit, I would say. Some Mediterranean notes, even a hint of spice, I would say. Something like that. I cannot guess it, but something on that kind of category. So nice complexity, very pleasant nose. Yeah, more approachable. It's ready to drink, very pleasant with this fruity finish, the minerality. Very nice, very nice. So two completely different expression, one bit young, but both well done, typical varieties of the island, and expressing quite well the pure characteristics in an easy drinking wine for every day. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, please. Share with your wine friends. Help us to grow. See you next time, and salute.